Desire, often misunderstood as a signal of lack, is in truth the whisper of possession. It arises not because something is missing from you, but because something is already yours in the unseen realm of imagination. You do not desire what you cannot conceive. You do not long for what you cannot touch in consciousness. The very fact that you can want something so deeply is proof that it exists for you in potential, in spirit, in imagination, the only true source of all things. When a desire emerges, it is not to taunt or torment, but to guide. It is a call inward, not outward. It beckons you to recognize that what you are reaching for already exists within you. You wouldn't crave love, abundance, health, or purpose unless on some deep inner level you already knew what it felt like to experience them. That internal recognition, that flicker of longing, is actually a memory from your imagination, reminding you of a state you've already touched internally, even if not yet externally. Desire is not a need to pursue something in the world. It is the soul's reminder that the state exists and is accessible now. It is the beginning of embodiment, not the beginning of effort. When you feel desire, it is not the time to chase. It is the time to assume. To assume the feeling, the identity, the atmosphere of the fulfilled desire. Because the desire could not be present unless the fulfillment was also present. Like a shadow that only appears when the object is real and light is cast upon it. You are not separate from what you want. Desire is the bridge, not the gap, between your present state and the realization of your ideal. It is proof that you and your desire are of the same substance, connected through imagination. What feels distant in form is already near in consciousness. The very act of trying too hard, of striving and efforting, announces a truth to your inner world, that you believe you do not yet have what you seek. Every effort, every strain is a silent confession of lack. When you chase, you confirm the absence. When you struggle, you energize the distance between you and the thing desired. It is not the thing that is far from you. It is your state of being that has placed it on a pedestal, made it something to attain rather than something to accept. Efforting belongs to a mindset that sees the world as separate from the self, where outcomes are earned rather than assumed, where desires must be wrestled into existence rather than received from within. But in truth, all creation begins and ends in consciousness. Nothing comes into your world uninvited by your inner state. The more you believe you need to do something to get it, the more you affirm you are not it. The more you advocate this effort, this trying pushes it further away, not because the thing is resisting you, but because your state is one of resistance. You cannot hold the feeling of, I don't have it, and simultaneously bring forth the experience of having it. The two states are incompatible. Effort is rooted in doubt. It assumes that unless you intervene, unless you fight, unless you control, the desire won't manifest. But true manifestation does not operate on the level of force. It flows from alignment. When you rest in the feeling that it is already yours, effort dissolves because it is no longer necessary. You are no longer performing to earn. You are being to receive. The most profound transformations come not from struggle, but from surrender. Not surrender in weakness, but surrender in trust. In the stillness of knowing, in the quiet certainty that what is real in imagination must become real in form. And in that place, effort becomes irrelevant. What you assume to be true, whether consciously or unconsciously, sets the tone for everything you experience. Your assumptions are not passive thoughts. They are creative forces. They mold the unseen substance of life into visible form. The outer world does not shape your inner belief, it reflects it. Life echoes back to you what you have first accepted as true within yourself. It is never a question of what is real out there, but what has been claimed as real inside. Assumptions work quietly and consistently. They do not shout or demand. They settle deep into your consciousness and begin to organize circumstances, people, and events around them. If you assume you are successful, you don't just hope for success. You start to think, feel, and act as one who is already successful. And life, faithful to your inner claim, responds accordingly. If you assume lack, struggle, or unworthiness, that too will be confirmed by experience. Not because it is the truth, but because it is your truth, and reality bends to the truth you live by. The world does not operate independently of your inner state. It is not detached from your beliefs, but built by them. Assumptions are not just fleeting ideas, they are convictions. They are what you settle into, what you take for granted as normal, what you no longer question. They create your self-concept, and your self-concept dictates your world. You cannot rise above your assumptions, for they are the ceiling and the floor of your reality. There is no need to strive to change the outer world when you understand the power of assumption. Shift the assumption, and the world must shift with it. It does not resist you. It reflects you. This is why imagining and feeling from the state of the wish fulfilled is so transformative. You move into a new assumption, and that new assumption creates a new life, not in time, but in consciousness first. And as surely as day follows night, the physical must conform to the spiritual blueprint you've accepted as real. Imagination is not a mere escape or a daydream. It's the foundational reality from which all things emerge. Every structure, every relationship, every circumstance you encounter was first imagined, either consciously or unconsciously. The outer world is nothing more than the projection of inner states held in imagination. What you see around you is a mirror reflecting what you have accepted and impressed upon your consciousness. Imagination precedes experience. It is the womb of all creation. Nothing can appear in your life until it is first accepted in the unseen realm of the mind. This is not symbolic. It is literal. What you imagine with feeling becomes the blueprint that reality must follow. When you begin to treat imagination as the origin of all form, rather than a fantasy or indulgence, you reclaim the creative power that has always been yours. To imagine something vividly and to persist in that inner experience is to plant the seed of future events. Imagination doesn't wait on external permission or validation. It simply creates according to the feeling and belief held within. If you imagine limitation, that becomes your world. If you imagine freedom, health, love, or abundance and feel it to be true, then you move into alignment with that version of life. It has no choice but to unfold around you. The world outside changes not because of force or action alone, but because of shifts in inner awareness. That shift happens in imagination. You cannot live beyond what you are willing to imagine. You cannot possess what you refuse to believe is possible within. All transformations begin when you withdraw attention from the outer facts and invest your focus in the inner scene. That inner scene, when accepted as real, must express itself in form. Imagination is not fiction. It is spirit operating through you. It is the eternal creative power seeking form through your thoughts and emotions. To disregard it is to live as a victim of appearances. To honor it is to become the author of your experience. Living from the end means embodying the state of your fulfilled desire now, not waiting for outer circumstances to give you permission to feel complete. It is the conscious choice to dwell in the emotional and mental atmosphere of already having what you seek. You do not think of the desire as something distant or pending. You inhabit the feeling of it being done. You walk, talk, think, and feel from that end, and in doing so you align yourself with the version of reality where it already exists. This approach does not rely on willpower or effort. It rests in certainty. When you live from the end, you no longer question how or when it will come to pass. You no longer treat your desire as a goal to be reached, but as a reality already secured. The moment you make that inner shift, your world begins to rearrange itself to reflect that new assumption. Circumstances, people, and opportunities start moving in response to your inner decision. Living from the end is not about pretending or forcing belief. It is about accepting as true what your senses may not yet confirm. It is a deep inner knowing that because you have claimed it within, it must be revealed without. You assume the identity of the person who already has the thing desired, not someone hoping, wishing, or begging, but someone living in the satisfaction of its presence. That feeling, once consistently held, becomes the magnet that draws the experience into form. To live from the end is to acknowledge that creation is finished, and you are simply selecting the outcome you wish to experience. There are infinite realities, and by choosing the feeling of the desired one, you enter into its frequency. The outer world then reflects that internal state as faithfully as a mirror reflects your image. You are not waiting on the world. The world is waiting on your decision to occupy the state of fulfillment. Feeling is the secret because it is the substance that brings your desires to life. Thoughts alone without feeling are like seeds thrown on stone. They have no soil to grow in. It is the emotional charge behind your inner experience that impresses the subconscious and sets the creative process in motion. You do not manifest what you merely think about. You manifest what you feel to be true. Feeling is the bridge between the invisible and the visible, between imagination and experience. Every state of consciousness carries with it a corresponding feeling. The state of wealth has a feeling, the state of love, of health, of success. Each has its own emotional tone. To enter the state is to feel from it. You must ask yourself, how would I feel if this were already true? And then begin to live from that answer. That feeling, when sustained, becomes the foundation upon which the new reality is built. It is not enough to say the words or picture the scene. You must feel its truth as if it is happening now. The subconscious mind does not respond to words, it responds to feeling. It accepts whatever is deeply felt, regardless of whether it is good or bad, wanted or unwanted. This is why worry, fear, and doubt are so destructive. They are feelings too, and they are creating as surely as joy, gratitude, and faith. Your emotional state is a constant affirmation to the creative power within you. Whatever you consistently feel, you invite into your world. To master feeling is to master creation. When you can generate the feeling of fulfillment before the evidence appears, you are demonstrating true faith. You are living from the end. You are no longer a victim of circumstances, but the cause of them. The moment you feel the reality of your desire, you have already received it in consciousness, and the outer world will catch up. Feeling is not a passive thing. It is the activating force. It is the acceptance of your desire as already real. And once it is accepted emotionally, nothing can stop it from coming forth. There is no power outside of consciousness, because all that exists, all that appears real, is a product of what is held and accepted within. The world you see, touch, and interact with is not operating independently of you. It is the outpicturing of your internal state. Nothing comes into your experience unless it is first accepted in consciousness, and nothing remains unless it is continually supported by belief and attention. Everything begins and ends within the awareness of being. To believe in external causes is to place power where it does not belong. It is to become subject to forces that seem random, unjust, or beyond control. But when you understand that consciousness is the only creative power, you reclaim the authority that has always been yours. You stop looking to the outside for change, validation, or rescue, and instead turn inward to the source, the only place where transformation truly occurs. No event, no person, no condition holds sway over your life unless you give it meaning and energy within your mind. Consciousness gives life to the forms you behold. It selects, accepts, and sustains them through feeling and focus. What you are conscious of being, you inevitably express. If you are conscious of being abundant, that is what you will see. If you are conscious of being overlooked, unwanted, or lacking, your world will reflect those assumptions with perfect precision. The power is never in the condition. It is in the state of consciousness that created the condition. Change the state, and the condition must change. You are not reacting to life. You are meeting yourself over and over in different forms. The outer is always secondary. It is an echo, not a cause. To place faith in the external is to chase shadows. To trust the inner reality of consciousness is to create from the substance that truly governs all things. When you awaken to this truth, you realize that you are never powerless. You are never at the mercy of chance or fate. Every experience begins with a thought, a belief, a feeling, something first formed within consciousness. By assuming the feeling of the desired state, by becoming inwardly what you wish to see outwardly, you activate the creative force that shapes all reality. There is no exception, no alternate source, no rival to this power. Consciousness is all there is, and from it all things flow. Persistence in the state of fulfillment is key, because creation is not a momentary act of imagination. It is a continual occupation of the desired state. It is not enough to briefly feel the wish fulfilled and then return to doubt, worry, or a sense of lack. The state you dwell in most consistently is the one that solidifies into experience. What you persist in feeling, believing, and assuming becomes the reality that surrounds you. The outer world is loyal to your dominant inner state, not to your fleeting desires. When you persist in the feeling that your desire is already yours, you anchor yourself in the only place where true creation happens, the now. You are not waiting for something to come, you are living as if it already is. This persistence is not struggle, it is steadiness. It is the refusal to accept appearances that contradict your inner knowing. It is the quiet, confident returning to the state of fulfillment, no matter what seems to be happening around you. Doubt may come, delay may appear, but if you persist, if you continually bring yourself back to the inner conviction that it is already done, then what you desire must come into form. This is not law in theory. It is law in operation. Your inner state is causative. The world will bend to match the truth you hold within if you will only hold it long enough. Every time you choose the feeling of the wish fulfilled over the appearance of its absence, you reinforce the reality of your desire. Persistence is not about forcing belief. It is about gently but firmly refusing to move out of the feeling that all is already well. You return again and again to that place in consciousness where the desire is realized, where you are already the person you seek to become. Over time, this becomes natural. The imagined becomes familiar, and the familiar becomes physical. Reality is shaped not by sudden bursts of emotion, but by the continual assumption of the fulfilled state. Even when nothing seems to change, even when evidence is lacking, persistence keeps the door open. The unseen is always responding. What you cannot yet perceive is already rearranging itself to meet the vibration you are holding. The world cannot help but reflect what you are. And when you are steadfast in the state of fulfillment, the world has no choice but to conform. Letting go of how and when is essential, because fixation on the mechanics of manifestation only reinforces the belief that what you desire is not yet yours. The moment you begin to wonder how it will come, or when it will arrive, you step out of the state of fulfillment and into the state of doubt. The fulfilled self has no questions about timing or process. It simply knows. To truly dwell in the end, you must release the need to control the route and the schedule by which your desire will appear. The how and when belong to the outer world, to the realm of appearances and logic, but creation begins in consciousness. And consciousness does not operate by linear timelines or predictable steps. It operates by assumption and feeling. When you assume the desire is already fulfilled, you move beyond the limitations of cause and effect. You align with a deeper intelligence that orchestrates everything without your interference. Trying to manage the how is a subtle declaration that you don't believe the inner work is enough. It's an attempt to take back control from the very process that is meant to unfold naturally. The truth is, you don't need to know how it will come. You only need to know that it is, in consciousness, in feeling, in truth. And once that is accepted, the how begins to take care of itself. Life moves in unseen ways. People, opportunities, and circumstances begin to shift, not because you forced them, but because you align with the version of reality where your desire already exists. The when is equally deceptive. It tempts you to wait instead of live. But there is no waiting in true fulfillment. If you are truly living from the end, time becomes irrelevant. You feel the satisfaction now, and that feeling is what generates the unfolding. Every moment you spend in worry over when it will happen is a moment spent outside the state of having. And the state of having is the only place from which it can come. Letting go does not mean giving up the desire. It means releasing the need to control the form. It means trusting the process and surrendering to the wisdom of the unseen. You move forward with confidence, knowing that what is yours cannot miss you and that its arrival is inevitable, because you have already claimed it within. You let go not out of resignation, but out of faith. You release your grip on the outcome, and in doing so, you make space for it to arrive. To rest in the knowing rather than the craving is to settle deeply into a state of inner peace and assurance, rather than a restless yearning for something outside of yourself. Craving is born from a sense of lack, a feeling that something is missing and must be obtained to bring fulfillment. It stirs anxiety, impatience, and struggle. Knowing, on the other hand, is the quiet confidence that what you desire is already yours, regardless of what your senses reveal. It is the settled trust that the unseen reality you hold within must manifest in time. When you crave, you are constantly reaching, stretching beyond yourself, as if the source of your satisfaction lies elsewhere. This keeps you in a state of unrest, always looking outward, always chasing. But to rest in the knowing is to turn inward, and recognize that fulfillment is a condition of consciousness, not a circumstance to be attained. It is to live as if your desire has already come to pass, holding the feeling and the identity of the fulfilled state with calm certainty. Resting in the knowing means releasing the tension that craving creates. It means no longer being tossed about by hope or fear, no longer depending on evidence or timing. Instead, you anchor yourself in the invisible reality where your wish is complete and perfect. This does not mean passive waiting, it means active acceptance. You move through your day with the quiet confidence of someone who knows the outcome, who feels it deeply and carries it effortlessly within. This state of knowing aligns you with the creative power of your consciousness. It signals to the subconscious that the desire is fulfilled, and it organizes reality accordingly. When you stop craving and begin to rest in knowing, you stop pushing against the flow of manifestation and begin to flow with it. The energy shifts from tension to ease, from resistance to allowance. In that space, creation happens naturally, inevitably, and without struggle. To rest in the knowing is to trust yourself, to trust life, and to trust the unseen forces working on your behalf. It is the quiet surrender that makes room for miracles. It is the fertile ground in which your desires grow from seeds in the imagination to fruits in the visible world. In the end, the journey to having what you desire begins not with effort or struggle, but with a shift within. A shift from trying to get it to simply being it. When you stop chasing and start assuming, when you rest in the knowing instead of craving, you align yourself with the creative power of your own consciousness. The reality you seek already exists in your imagination and your feeling. All that remains is for you to persist in that state without doubt or hurry. Let go of how and when, and trust the unseen process unfolding. In doing so, you will find that what you desire flows effortlessly to you, not because you forced it, but because you became one with it. This is the secret: to stop trying, to stop struggling, and to live from the end with quiet confidence, knowing that what is yours cannot be withheld.